Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Carbon, and with me today, of course, is Mr. Mat Germain. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good for a guy that's a quarter into this century. That's
A quarter into this century, you old man. Oh my gosh. I want to say thank you to all the people who were involved in rescues. I've said this before to you and the other Canadians who came down here during the hurricanes, whether it been power or other forms of rescue in Florida. And now, of course, everything that we're seeing the Canadians being able to help the people out in California in those wildfires. So I wanted to say thank you to you, Mat, and all the great people who are coming to our aid.
yeah. Whenever we're neighbors, so whenever we can help each other out, by all means, it's what we're supposed to do.
All right. Well, thank you all. Anyway, getting to some of the day-to-day, what's happening with baseball. Mat, I finally started looking at that calendar. 2025 is here, as you said, looking at a quarter of a century already into this thing. I thought you were telling me you were 25 years old, but
Oh, Mark, don't get me going on that. That's I had to think back to when I was 25. Oh, I had so much more hair.
No, but it is interesting. This year starting, and of course, baseball. We've been anticipating it for some time, and still, it's yet to come. But there's a few dates I'd like to mention. One is about 34 days before catchers and pitchers report to spring training. That's going to be on February 12th. So if that'll be here soon. Let's see. Oh, here's one I hadn't thought about, Mat. Truck Day. Have you ever heard Truck Day before?
Yes, I've heard of Truck Day. That's awesome. I love it.
So that's when a team moves everything, like in case with the Boston Red Sox, for instance. They pick up all the equipment and everything. They move it from Fenway Park to their spring training facility down in Fort Myers. And that day is on February 3rd. So that's going to be here before we know it. Oh, Truck Day. And they get out there and they celebrate it. I think they have some small parade around it with all of the different mascots at the time. It's insane. And I'm looking forward to all of these folks lighting here, 15 of those teams down here in Florida. It's going to be exciting times with spring training.
Absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to it. The heat is coming. We just don't know exactly when it'll arrive.
Oh, brother. We'll see a swing at 40 degrees right now in Tampa Bay any day as far as temperature goes. We're not having any snow. But
Good to hear.
Yeah, not here. But where I was in Louisville a week ago, they've got I don't know if it's 2 feet yet or not. When I spoke with somebody the other day, they said, yeah, we got about 12 inches of snow and then at least another inch and a half of ice. So anyway, we don't have that here. Getting back to what's coming up, we said the spring training days. Collegiate opening day, Division I will be on February 14th, and Division II is going to be on January 31st. Any other days? I think we'll give that a rest. There's a lot more, but we'll give that a rest. But the thing I do want to talk about, Mat, and that is some of what you were covering on Blue Sky. And that is the prospects, MLB prospects, and specifically somewhat of the Rays. But can we address who has stepped away, or I should say, is no longer on the prospect list, and who's coming up?
Yeah, so you got Junior Caminero graduated last year. The Rays brought him up early enough that he was able to get enough service time to no longer be considered a rookie. And it also means that he's not going to be in contention for some of the prizes that the MLB's got for teams that actually use a rookie from the beginning onwards for next year. You could make a solid argument that they could have some of their top prospects begin the season in MLB if they really wanted to push the envelope. And one of the reasons I say that is because 2 of them that they have in the minors right now have the tools to play at the MLB level when it comes to defensive play or speed. So one of them that got rated extremely high and will be, more than likely the top of the list of most people's rankings of the Rays prospects is Carson Williams. And MLB.com did an executive poll basically, where they went around and they asked MLB executives, who would your best defensive prospects be in the minors based on what you've seen and what evaluators are telling you. And over 40% of them chose Carson Williams as that top defensive player in all of minor league baseball. So that tells you something about his profile. And when you consider the fact that he has a lot of power to go with that and makeup that's off the charts, you get to see this solid leader coming through the system that, has that pedigree to kind of, be able to take on the pressures that come with, playing in the show. So I'm not sure if the Rays would be willing to have him skip AAA and come up to the show. They did it with Wander Franco, but there was a pandemic issue at the time.
Yeah.
There was other factors, and I think you always had the hit tool with Wander not being an issue whatsoever. They had faith in that, and I'm not sure the faith is as high with Carson, although he made significant headway on that last year. The other guy is Chandler Simpson, who was also the runaway winner of the fastest prospect in the minors, or the best base stealer as well. And he stole 104 bases last year. Nobody's going to question that. And he does have the hit tool, unlike Carson Williams. So, those are two guys that you can envision to raise, if they are eyeing that top rookie prize that MLB gives out, which is an extra pick. And the Orioles earned that recently, I think not last year, but the year before. And that's a significant pick in the top 35 overall that you get to play with and get 6-7 years out of a prospect or trade it away if you want to. So the Rays have that. And they also, just as another note, they had one of them show up in the power profile, which was Xavier Isaac, got some votes. I think he was 4% of the top votes. So, he got some love on that front as well. So the Rays are well covered. They have power, speed, defense coming up the line, and they're some of the best in MLB.
Wow. It's exciting to see all those people because I remember over the last couple of years, you talking both about Junior and Carson, and to see them evolve and seeing them coming up, I'm glad to see they're getting the attention, and I'm glad we could see them play.
Yeah, but that what's most exciting about it is you can make an argument that Chandler Simpson will wind up in center field, Carson Williams at shortstop, and they're saying that Xavier Isaac might become the left fielder of the future for the Rays. So when you look at those three positions and you look at what else the Rays already have on board, that's exactly where they need that talent for this year. So the second half of 2025 is going to be a very intriguing time to watch the Rays because they should, in theory, get a lot of support and a lot. And from what we're hearing, you can always trust it with a grain of salt, but they're saying they're not going to trade Brandon Lau and Yandy Diaz. So the right side of the infield should be very solid. And so when you add those players that you mentioned, including Junior on the left side, that's a lot of youth, it's a lot of talent, and it's a lot of promise in what they could actually achieve.
Well, I'd say almost surprised if they didn't trade either Brandon or Yandy. I like them both and I hope they stay, but I don't know. We'll see. I am not surprised to see the talent that we've got coming up because we all know that the Rays have done a fantastic job over the years with finding young players or bringing them up through the farm system. And, what you're just saying actually exhibits all of that. It makes it very clear that's a big part of what's happening right now.
It is. The only thing that's questionable right now is what speed. How far do they want to push the pedal to the metal? And how much pressure are they going to put on those prospects to perform right away? So by trading Jose Siri, they've opened the door for somebody in center field. By trading a lot of the players they made trades with at the deadline, they've opened the doors for some of those young players to come up. So that's encouraging. It's actually a really good thing. And I don't think they're done. I honestly believe that there's at least one more trade coming, more than likely with pen piece, maybe a bench role kind of player that can also handle shortstop. We'll see. But I don't think they're done by any means. And it's just fun to see them building towards something that, should be more long lasting even than the last one because the system is just overflowing with talent. Like with the trades they made at the deadline,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
every level has a lot of promise. And especially for me, what I think they've been missing the most is elite outfielders. And when I look down the line of the Rays, I don't think I've ever been as excited about their outfield prospects as I am right now. Ever. Like in your entire history. There is some significant outfield talent and it has all of the tools, power, speed, like off the charts power, off the charts speed. And then really the last time we had that, I think it was in 2008, maybe 2007, right? When you had the Carl Crawfords and all those guys coming through. And I think that's really exciting because the Rays know how to treat their infielders. They know how to develop them well. So what they've always been weak at is the outfield and the behind the plate work. So Danny Jansen being added there is also going to be a huge boost.
It's gonna be interesting to see because I'm I'm looking at the team and quite honestly, I haven't been, as far as like 2008, I wasn't tied into the Rays at the time. But I'm looking, I thought, well, we got Siri, we had him, we had Randy, we had Kiermaier. You could even say I thought Josh Lowe. I thought all those guys did fairly well out there and decent at the plate, but I guess you hold a higher standard.
Yeah, well, because I'm not looking at just the defensive aspect. I want like when let's say you're talking about the Yankees, right? You want to be the Yankees. You want to beat the Yankees. So when you look at their outfielders and you're looking at an Aaron Judge, where is the Rays version of Aaron Judge? It doesn't exist.
Right.
I'm saying that when I look in the system right now, I could see an Aaron Judge style, like that elite level player. Now, in the Rays case, it would more than likely be a more five toolish kind of player than somebody that's going to hit 60 home runs. But you can't put that past Xavier Isaac.
Yeah.
Xavier Isaac has the power that he could develop into that kind of masher and eye at the plate. That's what I'm saying is that the Rays have that elite over the top potential in the system like they've never had before.
Well, I am looking forward to see that happen. I mean, the thing of it is, too, this year, we were even talking about before the show about how that some places we see a six-man rotation perhaps this year. We can talk a little more about that. But the whole idea is the strength of this team. I mean, let's see who we got. We got Shane McClanahan finally coming back. Then we had a guy sign yesterday. Was it a 2-year extension? A guy with two Tommy John surgeries and something inserted into this joint of his elbow. A fellow who had two Tommy John surgeries while he was in college, I believe, in Oregon.
Yep.
Drew Rasmussen. I'm so glad to have him back, man.
Yeah, he's consistent. When he's on the mound, like honestly, if you look at his ERA through his career, right, since 2021, his ERA is 2.84, 2.84, 2.62, and 2.83. Like as consistent as you get.
Yeah.
And the same thing with his whip. His whip, I think, goes from 108 to 104, and it stays there for all 4 years. You know what you're going to get when Drew's on the mound. You're going to get an elite hard to hit, hard to square up guy. The knock has been the innings pitched. He's only exceeded 76 innings pitched in a year once. And that was in 2022, and he pitched 146 innings. So I think the extension reflects that. It says, okay, we know you're pretty much a reliever this year coming up. Maybe you get to extend your innings pitch count to 80, maybe 90 if you're lucky. And then the year after that, maybe we'll get you back up to 120 if you're in the rotation enough and your arm stays on and it doesn't fall off. And then the year after that, if you're looking strong and we want to put you back in the rotation, then your salary based on because the way they broke down the option that the Rays can pick up is he can either get as low as 8 million if they pick it up, that's his bare minimum, to all the way to 20 million with
Yeah.
all the incentives they added in. That's a lot. That's a wide range, Mark. That tells me that they either think he's going to be just a reliever at that point, which they're going to be on the hook for 8 million if they pick it up, or he's going to be, one of the innings eaters and get 20 million. So I'm really curious to see if they pick up that option and what role he'll be filling if they do. I don't think they're going to pay 20 million for a reliever, but if they're good enough and he is elite enough of a reliever, that's pretty much the market that we're seeing with Tanner Scott. So you can't really put them past it. I just think that, the Rays historically, a reliever over 5 million is pretty rare.
Yeah, with Drew, I thought this was reasonable. I
Mhm.
mean, just because of what you said, as far as his health and ability to do it, it's a measured payment system, so that if you're able to deliver, uh, guess what? We're going to be able to reward you at that level as well.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, I'm happy that he has a bare minimum of 7.5 million. I would take it. But, these guys put their bodies on the line, they put their arms on the line. He's had a lot of injuries and he's suffered through a lot, and he's given everything that he has when he's on the mound. So I'm glad he has a floor now, same as Shane McClanahan. They did a similar kind of extension with him. It gives them the hopes and dreams of a bigger payday down the line, but also some security in terms of knowing that they're not going to be if the Rays had kept both of them arbitration each year, year after year, then they're always able to walk away if there's a major injury, a third one for both of them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, as much as we like to, go ahead and give front offices a lot of grief, I feel like that is more than fair to give them some reward for, and I think a lot of those are rewards for what they've done in the past.
that's right.
Because we know they weren't getting paid as much as you might think they were worth as early years into Major League Baseball. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that. So again, we got Drew, we got Shane, we got McClanahan, we got Boz, we got who else? Right, I can't think of them all off the top of
Pepio.
my head. Oh yeah, Pepio. My gosh,
Yeah.
it's going to be a good year. I'm really looking forward to it. I tell you that much.
Yeah, what I'm really curious to see if the Rays start making some of the changes that I'm hoping they make with some of the personnel. Like, for example, just to throw one out there as a you know what to look for is Taj Bradley starting to get more seasoned. He has a better feel for some of his pitches. It's time for them to add a pitch. The in terms of the pitchers, when you think about it on the mound and you think of starters, how many of them don't have a slider?
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
why doesn't Taj Bradley have a slider? Like where is the slider? So as that's just one example, right? Of how he can improve. He can add deception in that way. He can add some more positive innings without getting touched as much in terms of home runs. So I that's the thing that I broke down basically with each starter was like, okay, what could they do with Pepio? Well, they could, increase the workload of the curve. They can do this. So the Rays have such a great young staff that now they're starting to know more about, and they've taught them some basics, and now it's time, I think, to push the envelope a little bit with each of them.
Are you ready for Rays opening day 2025 at over here in Steinbrenner Stadium over by the Bucks? It's going to be interesting.
Are they allowed to change the name of the stadium for a year? Because I don't know if I can
No,
deal with you hearing Steinbrenner Field, Steinbrenner Field, Steinbrenner Field. They should have a naming rights competition just for the 1 year and add it. I don't know.
I,
I really don't want to have to deal with it, Mark. I don't.
I,
It just sours every time I watch the Rays.
I know, brother. I can't even begin to imagine what it's going to be like when they play the Yankees there. It's oh Lord. I mean, the open stadium, and they're going to be playing most of their games in the first part of the season in that stadium, a good portion of them anyway, because that's when it's not as hot and not as rainy. And playing without a dome in Florida is just crazy. So that's what they're going to have to do, though. And if you think about it, that's what the minor leagues do around here during the rest of the year. But
What are
I
your
don't.
thoughts on the Trop being fixed now? The Rays being fully on board with the repairs and changing their tune on that. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think fixing the Trop is a waste. I think that being at Steinbrenner for 3 years is beyond what anybody wants to do. So I'm at odds with myself on this, to be honest with you. If they fix the trop, what are they going to be? Are they going to be there for 1 year? It seems like a waste to me to put even $1 into that place.
Of course it is, Mark, but you know what it's about? It's about the Rays looking for St. Pete to offer up money to not play there. If you catch my drift.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, the Rays were all up in an uproar about the longer delay on the building the new stadium. So I think this is going to grow into St. Petersburg having to decide, and really the county decide, okay, well, do we want to fix it, or do we want to offer to the Rays that we can, take, I don't know, 90% of the money it would cost, give it to them and save ourselves 10%, to save ourselves 20%, whatever it is they decide, instead of rebuilding the Trop. Because I don't think, you're right. Nobody wants to rebuild the Trop. Nobody wants to have to rebuild the Trop because you're just going to tear it down again 2, 3 years later. And you don't even know if what you're building is going to last or work because there could be another storm that tears it right off again.
Yeah.
So I honestly believe that all it has to do with is the transfer of money from one project to the Rays pocket. That's basically.
Okay. Well, let's take it a step further. Everything's been approved. All the cities approved things, the counties approved things. The Rays continue to be in pain over it all because the extensions have crippled us with all this extra debt. But beyond all that, it felt like the mechanism is in place that they almost wanted the county not to agree to go ahead and give that money so they could walk away. I don't think the commissioner was ready for the Rays to walk away from Tampa Bay, but I think Stu was ready to walk away.
Well, he's been looking for a way out for a long time, it seems, in a way. Like I think he's played both sides very much.
Oh yeah, and let's face it, because if they backed out, meaning the county, then Stu would have still had all the business development area underneath his wing. But that was basically saying, hey, they walked away, but we already had this other contract for the business development area over here. So it's been a mess. It continues to be a mess. And like I said, I'm not going to believe anything until the girders are in the ground and they've got the guys and the hard hats and the cranes building Trop 2.
Why is it that the closer we get to that final date when the stadium is supposed to be built, the more far away it seems? Like you still don't have any certainty whatsoever. I don't recall any deal being like this, like just because we've been living it for so long. But yeah, I have to tip my hat to any business person that deals with these long-winded, whatever you want to call them, offers, projects, takeovers, all the long lasting ones, because it does get under your skin after a long time.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
just thinking, like this is time. Something has to give and we need to move on. But yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I know it was in the news, and the Tropicana Field rebuild saga is going to be one that I guess we'll have to watch for. I think come April 1st, they should have made a decision on that fully, because I think the work would have to begin by then. And I think the Rays also have to cross certain thresholds by then to get the new stadium build going, if I'm not mistaken.
You're on the money, because I had March 30th or 31st, whatever it is, in my mind as the last date for everything something they had to fall in place to say, oh yes, we are the Rays, and yes, we have taken some steps toward this. So right. I don't have all that list in front of me at the moment, but I do know there was enough banter back and forth between the Rays and the Pinellas County Commissioners on that particular topic. So we will see what comes, my friend. But it does, like you're saying, though, I feel like we're in some sort of temporal optical warp of trying to see what's going on around us when it comes to the Rays Stadium. And like I said, I'm ready to put a shovel in it or on it right now. And
I know I can always tell when we talk stadium, Mark's tolerance level drops.
Yeah, think.
I think you've mentioned that saga too many times, and you're just wanting it to end, basically. And I get it. It's 100% accurate.
Yeah, it's like having bed spins after a long, hard night. But anyway, uh, it's enough of my aggravation. Oh my gosh. So we've talked a bit about what's going on with the Rays with prospects. We talked a little bit about where the hell they're going to be over the next few years, what stadiums and such. And looking also across MLB, there's other things as well. Is there anything specifically on the Rays you want to make sure we cover?
Um, no, I think, the only other thing I would mention is that a few X-Rays have signed, and one of them I had hoped would return to the Rays, but I'm fine with where he landed. Basically, Charlie Morton signing with the Orioles. I think that's a really great landing spot for him, and it's a great replacement for them for Corbin Burns. I think he's going to teach a lot of their young pitchers a lot, especially Grayson Rodriguez. I mean, there's not a better guy to really sit down with him and get him to mature, to be the best version of himself. And I also think, the signing of Nathaniel Lowe with the Nationals was a good one, because I think, or it wasn't a signing, it was a trade. Pardon me.
Okay,
Um,
because I thought, yeah,
yeah, and I think he'll do very well there because they need us. He's not exactly. I don't know. I don't know what goes on in the clubhouses and all that kind of stuff, but they need a little bit more maturity and somebody that's been around a little bit, and with the Nationals, that's all I'm hearing. So I think they needed to bring some of that in, and he's got a decent enough bat that he can help the prospects that they have there, which are really, really, really high standard, especially in the outfield and in the left side of the infield. So he'll anchor the rest of it like that fairly well. I think it was a solid move on their part.
you're talking about the Nationals. What, Ahmed Rosario? He just signed as a free agent with them too today.
Right. It's another X-ray.
Yeah, yeah. So there, and who else? They had oh, Josh Bell. Didn't he used to be with them with the Nationals? I think. I
Yeah,
think
that's right.
he signed with them as well. But getting back to Charlie, man, yes, I would love to have seen Charlie here, but I see Charlie at his age, what he's doing, like you're talking about, kind of a leader. I could almost the olden days when you had a pitcher coach, I could
Yep.
see him along those lines. And so many still young people on that team. He will certainly be able to make an impact on them. So good luck, Orioles. Wish you well with him, but of course, we'd like to come out above in the AL East. A little disappointing last year. At the beginning of the year last year, I was talking with you and the hopes and dreams, of course, us winning and then going to the big game. But looking at, I really didn't think the Yankees were going to be quite as great as they were, but I thought the Orioles were going to be a little stronger. And I didn't think the Red Sox were going to be as strong as they wound up being by the end of the year. So it was an interesting year, 2024. But let's see, looking at some of the other folks from X-Rays, you've got Blake Snell's moving again. Let's see, where'd he go? He was with the Giants and now he's the Dodgers. Is that
Yeah.
right?
He's with the
Gosh.
Dodgers. And the Dodgers also, they keep adding and adding and adding. They brought in the I don't know how to say his name, Sung Kim.
Yep.
And then they traded Gavin Lux to the Reds after they acquired him. So they keep adding. I think the last thing that you'll see them add, and they do it every year, is a back end relief pitcher at some point. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they come knocking to the Rays from Pete Fairbanks or somebody like that. I think that they always add a second guy that they can fit in at closer because like everybody else, a pen is so volatile that you need that two or three closer potential guys in the pen.
Rays Southwest, I tell you.
Yep.
Oh, goodness. Let's see. Oh, you were mentioning Gavin Lux. And it was interesting because him going to Cincinnati, I saw an interview with him today. Anyway, the thing is, by him going to Cincinnati, he's going to be there with Tito, Tony
Yep.
Francona. So
Yes.
I guess Tony, he got through his health check. I don't know if they had to do a health check or not to sign on as manager, but I'm glad to see him still in the game. I know he enjoys doing it or he wouldn't be there.
So the Tito effect is real, and the you ask anybody on the Guardians, the legacy that he's left behind there, it's a huge thing, and I would equate it to when Joe Madden left the Rays, like the impact that it had on everybody after he left, it was still evident. They still had a little bit of his swagger that he left behind, and it'll be the same thing when Kevin Cash leaves. He'll still leave behind that kind of. They have a certain energy, Tito and Kevin Cash, where it's hard to not get along with them just because of the type of people that they are. And I think a lot of the young players that they have there in Cincinnati, including an X-ray that I always liked, Jake Fraley. I always loved the way he played. I saw him in the ABL as well, and he just has a certain steady as it goes demeanor, but he can do a little bit of everything on the field. And so Gavin Lux is another lefty, and that's what you'll notice if you look at the Reds lineup. Their entire bench was right-handed, and they needed to add improve their infield while adding some left-handed guy because they're just not as good as they should have been against right-handed pitching.
Yeah.
So I think Tito's going to get them on track. He's going to be a great guide. And I think people forget they added Brady Singer as well. Like their young pitchers are strong. Him and Hunter Green at the front of the line.
Right.
Like they've got a strong pen. They've got Emilio Pagan, another X-ray. Tito Francona can run a pen like nobody's business. So I'm saying don't overlook the Reds as a surprise team in 2025. If I haven't really done an in-depth look in what they have in the minors and look that far yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are one of the NL teams that I pick as being a potential surprise next season.
It was exciting to watch the Reds when I did last year, and the name I couldn't conjure a moment ago was Ellie De La Cruz. And watching that young man steal bases was fun.
It really is. And I mean, he's electric. Like if he ever like I don't know. You remember Yasiel Puig? I think Ellie De La Cruz has a little bit of that kind of swag to him, and
Mhm.
that kind of like you look at the tools and you're just like drooling because you're like he can really do. You just crush the baseball. He can run like the wind. He can, and so you're drooling about the potential. I just don't know if he'll ever put it all together. But with Tito there, I would not be shocked if he becomes the Jose Ramirez version in Cincinnati. I would say that he has another really strong prospect that I own on a lot of my prospect teams or fantasy teams, which is Edwin Arroyo, and I think you'll hear his name a lot next year, where he's one of those guys that's also electric and can get the crowds on their feet both with the bat and the speed. So they've got, like I said, they've got an intriguing team. Like they're starting to build something that you're actually paying attention to, and that's great to see.
What you were saying with Tito and the history that he's had with Cash as well, and the impact that they both make. I was thinking when you were talking about some of that, I was thinking also about how Madden came before Cash. I think a lot of people at the beginning, many years ago, were thinking, well, who's going to come in after Madden? He's got so much energy. He's got such, but it was a different kind of energy. And the energy that Kevin has sometimes seems subdued by comparison. But I felt like there's such a caring leadership model with Kevin that it captures the young men and they want to work for him.
Right. I think you can always measure a manager by how the team is able to do all the little things right and how they stay together through the worst parts of the season. Like, do they turn on each other or are they all still fairly cohesive and actually get the job done?
So we no longer have Siri or Randy
Yeah.
Rosarino on the team.
You're getting there before I can even say
I'm sorry, brother. I'm
it.
sorry.
It's all good, but you're right. So when you're seeing the team shape the roster based on the ones that are maybe causing the most, that just don't get it, basically, and that are pushing those limits with managers that I think I don't want to say it's obvious because every manager has faults and there could be things going on that we don't see or things that are misunderstood. But I think, you get a certain consensus from talking to the players, from hearing the players talk, from the executives, from the faith that they've shown in Kevin. You don't see very many teams handing out 5-year contracts back to back, right?
Right.
And so that tells you a lot about the faith and the commitment. The Rays are very lucky to have Kevin Cash, and hopefully the Reds will feel the same about Tito by the time he's done there, and he has at least a handful of years there to kind of lead them to wherever it is that they're headed.
Tommy Pham. I'm trying to find out where is he now, man? He's popped up and down all over the place. I mean,
I think
uh,
he's in Vegas at the craps table betting on dog racing. I don't know.
oh
I don't know
no,
what's
no. Him and Mike Vick. Yeah, no, I don't. Oh gosh.
uh,
No, I mean, what he was with the Cardinals, the Royals, White Sox. He's been Tommy. I hope you're doing well, Tommy. He's always liked watching him. Always felt like he held himself to a high standard, and he damn well expected it of everybody else as well.
Absolutely. Like when the team is headed towards the playoffs, they always seem to call Tommy Pham, right? They want that kind of edge going into the playoffs. But honestly, in my heart, what I want to see is Tommy Pham play for the Savannah Bananas. I want to see him as the only guy not dancing. Everybody else is in formation, going through the moves, and he's not. He's like, no, I'm not playing this game.
An abomination.
Yeah, they put the mic in front of his face, and there's nothing that comes out. It would
Oh
just be
my
funny.
gosh. S-
Uh,
So you were mentioning earlier, Verlander's still out there. What did he just sign with? Let's
he
see.
signed with the Giants.
Yeah. And that was, what was he, like 42 years old? So I think it was rather limited contract, let me a year or so. Let's see what the news is on that one.
Yeah,
Uh,
I had
1 year
mentioned that.
deal.
Yeah, I thought that he was going to sign maybe in mid-season, just because I didn't know, whether or not he was gonna try to do the kind of thing that Roger Clemens used to do. So 15 million is still a good amount of money, but I'm surprised um that Corbin Burns didn't end up in San Francisco.
Hmm.
And I think once he went to Arizona, which I love that deal for them, to be honest, Mark. I think that, you're talking about the front two. They might have the best front two pitchers in the NL West, and that says a lot
Oh
when
yeah.
you're talking about the Dodgers being the second there. So you match them up, and you're like, well, health certainty, Zach Gallen and Corbin Burns, you can't get much better than that, like as a back-to-back duo. So I don't know. Justin Verlander, I honestly haven't dove into the numbers in terms of his velocity and pitch use, but I think he's reinvented himself fairly well. And like Charlie Morton, they just know how to pitch. They know they have the confidence. They're not afraid to pitch it anywhere they need to. Yeah, so it's good to see him go to a place where the stadium will help keep it in the park a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. So Matt, what are you looking at? What do you got cooking for the next week? What are you going to be doing as far as evaluating the different teams or the Rays? What's on your schedule?
I want to see them make a trade. I really think that right now, when I look at the relievers that they have coming in, it's overwhelming, Mark. They've got about 14 guys you can make a strong case in the pen, and they're really live arms. They're high octane, and they don't have that many guys that have options and are able to go down. So you're seeing guys like projected to be in the minors that shouldn't be. Like Kevin Kelly's a good example. He's been very strong for 2 years now. That he deserves a spot in the pen or in an MLB pen somewhere. Same thing with Hunter Biggie and a lot of the guys that they've brought in. Joe Boyle, I think, is going to be one guy that could relieve. You're just you're starting to do the math in terms of the roster spots in AAA, and the Rays are going to have to move some pitching. I just don't know who it's going to be and for what. So I'm hoping that they find a big right-handed bat somewhere that they can fit in the outfield that's maybe versatile, can also go in the infield. So I'm looking at that, and I'm also doing the top 50 list, like you said. So when I look through the entire race system, the amount of brain battles you do over pitchers, it starts to get really crazy. It's just so you could make a good argument for a group of 20 to 30 guys. And you're like, man, how do I separate these guys? And it's one of those fun things when you're following the Rays. You know you're always going to have a lot of intrigue in the minors, a lot of fun to kind of dissect them, and that's all I really bring it out about. Like I'm not a scout, and I'm not somebody that has, a PhD in scouting. I think it's a lot of fun to bring light to the fans about the players that are coming up and about what, is coming up the pipeline that they should be excited about and why. And I think that's why I do it more than anything is to kind of say, okay, well, these are the guys that, you might want to keep an eye on as they come up because you're going to hear their names again. They're the guys that you should be watching on MLB.com just to try to see what they have to offer the Rays in the future.
Looking forward to seeing what you post with that on Blue Sky. And folks, if you haven't been on there, that's really kind of the social media place to go. The other ones tend to be a little bit more trash, and what I'm not going to get into politics of it. If you're on any of the other ones, you kind of get a sense of what is and isn't there. And I'll put Matt's and my handle on Blue Sky for you at the end of the show, and also the notes as well. But anyway, let's see,
Appreciate
Matt. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we're looking at this. See a couple little last things I want to mention. One, you were talking about the pitching and trying to figure out some things coming up. We got Jeffrey Springs traded for 3 guys. He sent him to the A's. And the one thing that I continue to watch, and it's kind of surprised I haven't seen something done with yet, and that's Pete Alonso. I
Yeah.
really had thought that we would see him on a team. And I don't know if Scott Boras is doing anything great with him or not. I hear him throwing out the Boras organization saying things like, oh, yeah, we got these 8 different teams looking at Pete. Well, and I don't know if they're just trying to force Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets' hand to keep Pete or what for a certain price. I don't know. But I hope that Pete Alonso finds a good place this year because local boy, we love him.
Yeah, the sad truth is that, yeah, I don't know if you remember, but when Logan Morrison hit 30 home runs for the Rays, they let him go the next year. First base is already expected to be a high power position. They put a little bit more emphasis on defense now than they ever have, so that hurts Pete a little bit. He's about to cross a 30, year old threshold, which notoriously, starts to be wavering when it comes to first baseman. I mean, talk to Carlos Santana about how hard it is to get
Oh, yeah.
long-term deals for a first baseman. Like it's just endless for 1 year, 2 year deals for him, even though he's proven his craft for year after year after year. But I think at some point, Pete Alonso has to stare at himself in the mirror and decide what he wants to bet on. And unless he figures out a way to hold a higher average and on base percentage, he's not going to get a long term deal. So either he takes the steps to get that, and Mark, I'm telling you right now, if you want to hire up your on base percentage, your average, and to hit more home runs, you go to a minor league park.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be shocked if the polar bear decides to sweat it out in Steinbrenner Field.
Wow.
And the Rays have said they were open to a large 1 year deal with a free agent, where they would be betting on themselves, and maybe they have an option with with a bonus if they don't stick around, that kind of stuff. So I have heard some people start to whisper the whole 3 year with 2 option thing with the Rays. I think the Rays would even be willing to go 4 years and that kind of thing, as long as he's realistic about potentially being DH only. Because I do think with the Rays, with what they have coming, that's essentially the role he would have for the majority of that deal beyond 2025.
Right.
Because Trey Morgan is not going to move off first base. I really don't see it. So yeah, I love the fact that it's still possible. I don't expect it to be the Rays. I think, there's a lot of financial burdens that they're having to deal with. Um, but yeah, there's something that I've been saying it for a long time. You've heard me say it, where I just feel like his eyes lit up enough that I think if it's not going to be the New York Mets or the New York Yankees, I think he would be open to going to Tampa and open the new stadium when it arrives. I even think it would be that far into it that he would be willing to do if he could. So we'll see.
Good times, my friend. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and see if I could get my spring training tickets here or there. Maybe go out and see a couple of the games. And funny thing is, I have to go all the way down to Port Charlotte to see spring training. But if I want to see him play in an open stadium, I'll be able to do it right here in Tampa in a month or so. So only like 34 days left, man, and it's going to be catchers and pitchers report. Mm-mm-mm.
Your sunscreen ready.
Oh, ain't that true? They should be able to sell gallons of that over there with Steinbrenner. So we'll see how that goes. Well, Matt, I can't thank you again enough for all you're doing here, brother. And like I said, everybody keep an eye out for what he's doing with those top Rays prospects there on Blue Sky. And otherwise, I want to thank you, Matt, for being here again with us today, as always.
Always a pleasure, Mark. Always a pleasure.
All right, brother. Well, thank you again for joining us here today, and we look forward to talking with you again real soon.
Just a reminder, you can find Matt at matgermain.bsky social. That's at matgermain.bsky.social or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bsky.social. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on iHeart, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Special thanks to XTakeRUX for the music, Rocking Forward.